Hello and welcome. This is Ultimate Virtual, and this is the Lithuanian Grand Prix, the second ever running of it here in Season 6. We have our standard qualifying session, 3 minutes for these drivers to set the fastest lap time that they possibly can around what is a very, very fast circuit. We'll run you through a lap of it here as we come out of the final corner. Jurist, a man who is looking pretty fast so far, slots into 4th place. A long main straight to go down, weaving between the tyre chicanes at the end of the straight. The pit lane for the fuel stop in real life is there on the right for our drivers. They change tyres before a next tyre chicane right up the ramp, the double left-hander to the overpass and the long wind down all the way down to the final chicane as the drivers blast down the main straight. There are just about 5 corners on this circuit, 6 if you're being generous with that chicane. So really a very high speed circuit, very thrilling to watch racing at, and we saw a fairy tale story last season here. Somehow I made it, taking his first victory in his well over at that point 50 race career. So really good to see. Eurus goes top of the timing sheets. While we're watching these drivers, we'll take a quick look at the team's cars and how it's looking in the championship. Thunder X are leaders just by 9 points now, with the same number of tokens left versus Furia Roja, who on paper have quite a slow car, the 3rd slowest of all, but that really strong speed stat helps them a great deal, particularly on tracks such as this one. The upgrades for this week as well. Fox got a good double upgrade. It was grip and acceleration for them. Grip for Thunder X, as well as acceleration. Acceleration and grip for Porsche. A speed upgrade, the only one of the week, went Velocity's way. They'll be happy with that. And finally, grip for BFX. Fascinating. Eurus pole position, only a 10th of a second over Goose, but he himself gets pipped to the pole by pit crew. Really interesting there. Can the Brazilian driver hang on to take what would be, if not in his career, his first pole position? It would at least be up there with one of his first ever, because that would be incredible. He's not as far as I can remember scored many at all. Maybe a couple at most. So to see him starting right at the front, such a boost of confidence for the Thunder X team that thrice have seen their championship come undone, particularly last season, the very last race. Can they finally hang on this season, having started strong? Can they finish strong with the aid of pit crew? It's normally Grandy early in the season, putting in those performances, making the gap. Pit crew follows it up with late strength. Can he take pole position here in Palanga? He's got a good lap in. We're not seeing many improvements for the drivers in his immediate surrounding. Not many improvements at all. An improvement from Grandy there. He goes up to 8th position. Tokenless as well. He's all out of them. Really impressive. That's going to be it though for this qualifying session. And it is pit crew on pole position. Corvid will start alongside him on the front row in the Furia Roja. Uris starts 3rd, then it's Goose sharing the 2nd row with him. Andres and Rito 5th and 6th. Past and present BFX share that row. Hetmenica starts 7th for Porsche ahead of Grandy, somehow made it, and Shiloh rounding out the top 10. Then it's Fox and Todd Sod and All Canadian row 6. They're ahead of Kubo and Abva, Vaporeon and Anti, Caddo, Pappy and Bluebell in between the Pappy Pops cars. Suicide starting last place. Taking a look at the tokens now. We have spending 1 token is each of the Fox drivers. That's not worked a charm for them in qualifying. Both will start outside of the top 10. Spending 3 tokens is Rito. He starts in 6th position. Spending 4 tokens is Somehow I Made It, but starts down in 9th position. 3 tokens for Pit Crew. He'll start from pole, so we can see him up here. Then, spending 2 tokens is Goose and Hetmenica. They will start from 4th and 7th, respectively. Spending 4 tokens as well is Eurus McProl, starting 3rd on the grid. 3 tokens for Andries, he starts 5th. 3 tokens for Corvid, he starts 2nd. So summarising from top to bottom, 4 tokens for Somehow I Made It and Eurus, 3 tokens for Bottas Pit Crew, Andries and Corvid, 2 tokens for Game on Goose and Menica, 1 token for Fox and Adver. The rest of the grid tokenless. Grandy still our only driver completely out of tokens. We'll take a look, just final thing before we go to the race, at our standings so far in this season. Our top 2 in the standings were in the bottom 4 last race, and Antti pretty close to them as well. In fact, it was a pretty poor race for anyone really in the top 8, apart from those such as Kubo, Adver and Corvid moving up into our top pack in the standings with good top 4 finishes in that race. Of course, Kubo winning in Vallelunga from pole position and with the fastest lap as well, a complete hat-trick. Good to see that. Yeah, really good result from him there. Adver came 2nd and Goose came 3rd. And then what else is there to look out for? So it's still a 21-point gap from Grandy to the nearest driver behind. He is completely out of tokens, but still, that is about a race win or so gap. It's a pretty close pack behind, though. Shadow 51, Kubo 48, Antti 47, Adver 44, 42 for Corvid as well. And then a much, much closer pack directly behind that as well. Caddo on 36 points, down to Bluebell on 27. That is 7 drivers separated by 9 points. Pretty intense stuff right at the back. We've still got Vaporeon on 12, Menica 10, Somehow Made It on 6 only, looking to turn that around today with 4 tokens. 3 for Andries, only having scored points in the last 2 races, none higher than 9th position. Oopsie. And then finally, our Constructors' Championship, Thunder X, as previously mentioned, just lead by 9 points. Furia Roja behind them, Fox Oversteer, a good chunk behind them. They're closer in a battle to Neon Sunset Virtual, who themselves not too far ahead of Flying V Racing, sitting in their ever-present 5th position. It's 6th for SFR Maserati. Velocity fall down to 7th, 3 places down after last race. Pappy Pops hanging out in 8th at the moment. That Monaco win still very much the majority of their points so far this season, carrying them through to potential safety. BFX in 9th place, a fast car and a good number of tokens left should see them achieve safety this season, barring unlikely circumstances, but you never know in this league. Porsche look strong favourites to go down, yet to have a podium to their name this season. That's it then. We are all ready to go racing here at Palanga. Here we go then. 5 red lights ahead of the drivers. We're underway here in Palanga. It's a good start for Pit Crew, but Corvid with an equally good start. Eurus also looking to pull alongside. Can he go up the inside? Pit Crew holds it in around the outside at turn 1, keeps the lead of the race. Eurus sticks out in 3rd. Goose pulling alongside down that straight. Can he take the position off his old sleepover buddy? Yes, he can. Rito on the hard, still hanging in 5th. It's Grandy, Fox and Menica as they go over the bridge there. 3 wide pretty much. Somehow I made it a huge pack here. Shiloh, Kubo, Adver, Toddson, Antti, Caddo, all in that pack. Vaporeon, Pappy and Suicide are back too. Corvid is in the lead of the race. Pit Crow down to 3rd position now. Eurus, a really clever little switch, looked to go inside, ended up going outside as they head towards the tyre chicanes, and he's going to look to chase back after Goose, who took that position off him, but Pit Crew gets a really good exit over the overpass and does take the inside, going down the ramp, the shorter line through that corner, and does drop himself nicely back into 3rd position. Grandy is now our 5th place runner. He's gotten ahead of Rito's, also fallen behind Somehow I Made It, up 3 positions in the opening 3 laps. Andres really gets good straight line speed down that straightaway. Can Somehow Made It get the inside line through the double left-hander? He just forces his nose right inside there, makes a really good overtaking maneuver. Eurus is down. Look at how close this pack is though. He goes for the move on Corvid. Corvid deploys Eurus, gets the better of him as they go through there. Pit Crew gets a really decent exit. He looks to challenge Goose. He uses a bit of turbo and he retakes the lead of the race and will slow down just as they enter what is a very single file section in these cars, but he makes a mistake through the double left-hander and allows Goose to just tuck inside, up the inside in that corner. Eurus falls back a little bit as they come down through the ramp section. Corvin now getting a really good run on Pit Crew, switches to the outside, down the main straight. He'll take second place, but Goose has hit the front in the FVR car. Will we see any more position change? Corvid really looking at it here. Can he make a move? He can go inside or outside into this double left-hander. He doesn't commit to either, and then he comes under pressure from Pit Crew as a result, but gets a really good move just coming to the top part of the ramp downwards and gets through on Goose. Corvid hits the front. Eurus third place now. He's going to look to take second. Can he launch a move going into turn one? He's really close with it. Goose slammed into the wall by his competitor there, and Eurus will get a really nice little run down that straight, move his way through up into second place. Pit Crew right behind the Canadian still. Somehow made it up in fifth place. Then it's Rito. Grandy has dropped back into ninth. He's been overtaken by Foxanet Menaker. It's Andres in 10th. His teammate right behind him. Kubo, Avocado with Anti right on his tail. Shiloh, Toddsoft, Vaporeon, Pappy, and Suicide in a little race of their own. Right at the back at the moment, as it was a Furia Rojo who led large parts of this race last season. Andrian losing out to Somehow I Made It. Come the checkered flag. They're back in the lead here at Palanga. Speed in the Kamikaze days, and still it looks like has always been a strong philosophy of this team, and this is no better a track than to demonstrate it at. Goose got a really good run, overtook Corvid. Corvid's pulled back alongside, but Goose does keep that position going into turn one. Pit Crew gets really close, but does fold into the pit lane. He'll look to trigger an undercut on these drivers. Corvid now ahead of them. Goose just behind him, then Eurus somehow made it, and Rito. Pit Crew just emerging from the pit lane, going slowly through there. The Canadian, a Fox right behind him. Manica still very much in that fight. Eurus looking at the outside of Goose. Now let's get a little bit of context in our battling so far here, from top to bottom. We've got Corvid spending 3. He's in. Eurus in. Goose is in. We'll go back to the tokens in just a second as we look at where these drivers come out relative to Pit Crew. On the mediums, goes flying through and takes the lead of the race back. That undercut worked a charm for him. He slapped on the mediums. Eurus and Corvid slapped on the mediums. Goose the soft. None of these top 4 dare put on a hard compound tyre, which will give you really terrible acceleration out of these corners. But Goose gets a great run on Corvid. It's the compound difference, no doubt, that's done it for the Canadian driver as he makes his way up into 5th position. Of course, 5th on track, but not counting the fact that the likes of Somehow Made It and Rito haven't stopped yet. The pole and the pole and the Russian driver. And just as they're about to come in, definitely Somehow Made It about to come in, we've now got rain on the way, which works an absolute charm for these two drivers. Rito just needs to hold on for one more corner, and he'll enter the pit lane along with everyone else in second place. He does just that. Somehow I Made It into his box, comes out. He will hold the lead of the race, and well-timed rain has given him a well-timed lead here on lap 11. He hits the front. Pit Crew comes out on a full wet weather tyre. Eurus and Rito seem to doubt that decision, going for the Inter, but it is looking to be the right decision in the end because the rain will only get heavier from here before it gets lighter. Eurus looking really, though, at the back of Pit Crew. He's trying to make a move and make the advantage of that intermediate count while he's still in low rain conditions. Look at him inching ahead of the Brazilian driver, and they do get through the tyre chicane nice and safely. Pit Crew looking to launch a move back up the inside, but Eurus, who gets a great run over the bridge, looks to go to the outside of Somehow I Made It. Where can he make this move stick? He actually gets him just going through the underpass, and into the lead goes Eurus. Another driver to lead this race. We've had so many already. All the top 6, I believe, have led it. Rito is looking really good as well. He's in 4th place. That's going to turn into 3rd if he can make a move on Pit Crew here. The NSV driver up against the ThunderX counterpart. Oh, it looked like Eurus just got tagged a little bit heading over the bridge there. Sometimes it's easy for the drivers to get a little snap of oversteer exiting that section, and he looked to have lost the rear a little bit. That's lost him some time on Somehow I Made It. The 2 4-token spenders at the very front of the pack at the moment. Rito looking at a move here, potentially, if he can make one sticky. Rides the outside wall there. He gets a really good run over the bridge, though. Can he potentially get up there? He gets another run straight into the back of someone who made it. But as they come across the finish line, to end lap 14, Rito is up into second place. It's Anti giving Eurus a bit of grief, no doubt, trying to help out his teammate, get those elbows out, and he's held up Rito as well, just a little bit. Interesting to see that. He's now had to let that driver go through. Somehow made it, of course. Will suffer no issues from his teammate who lets him go as they go over the overpass, and that's a good little team game to play there as well. That's brought him right into this fight for the top 3 positions, and he edges ever closer. The track now bone dry. It clouds announced, and all of that standing water is gone. And it looks like the full wet weather tyres haven't been able to deal with that very well. Eurus into the pit lane, double stacking with his teammate who's a lap down. Just a few car lengths ahead of Rito, who himself is similar ahead of Somehow I Made It. Pit crew in 4th. Anti actually blocked off Goose from getting the Brazilian driver there, otherwise he would have been sitting duck on that main straight. And Abva now finally into the pit lane. He is our last driver to come into pit and will fall down the order as a result. The 1 token spend has worked a charm for him at certain points in the past, not looking amazing today. Somehow I Made It is under pressure from pit crew. He's just looking at a little opportunity here. If he can go up the inside, double left-hander, he does. Somehow Made It gets a decent exit though. It's a competitive one at the very least. Can he make it stick? He goes up the inside as pit crew goes round the outside there and actually gets the jump on. I think Somehow I Made It got stuck behind Caddo, but pit crew didn't find a similar issue there and has now put 2 lapped cars in between himself and the Russian driver. That is just one of the quirks of these AI. He's still stuck behind those 2 lapped cars as well. Vaporeon really getting tangled up there, not making it too easy, but he does expertly deal with them going through the left-hander. Goose in behind Corvid and Andres. Grandi looking at tokenless points today. Last race, the first time this season that he didn't score points. At Medicare, our final points runner. Rito leads Eurus, leads pit crew, Somehow Made It down to 4th. He's got Goose now pressuring him. The Russian driver appears to be going backwards. So from the top now, it's Rito spending 3 tokens. Eurus has actually just taken the lead, and he himself is spending 4 tokens. Pit crew is spending 3 tokens. Somehow Made It is spending 4 tokens. Goose is spending just the 2. Corvid is spending 3. He'll be disappointed being down in 6th at the moment. Andres is spending 3. Ditto down in 7th. Grandi not spending any is in 8th. Fox spending 1 is in 9th. Hetmenica spending 2 is in 10th. That is a slow ass Porsche. Great acceleration and great turbo, but not really that much else. Pit crew putting pressure on Eurus now. Rito dropped back. Pit crew senses an opportunity to go for the lead. Eurus having none of it. Pit crew though does get a good exit through the overpass. Does get ahead briefly. Eurus fights it back on the inside. Pit crew again goes ahead. Can Eurus fight it back this time? He does have turbo to deploy, and he deploys just little bits of it. He will inch up behind the Thunder X driver, who now gets a little bit of traffic there. Navigates it cleanly though, and pit crew hits the front. He has never, ever, ever, ever won an Ultimate Virtual Race. He's been racing in the league since Season 2. He has scored a handful of podiums on a handful of occasions, but this Brazilian man has never, ever finished. I'm not even sure he's finished second in a race. I think he might have done, but he's definitely never won an Ultimate Virtual Race in his multitude of races that he's done in the league so far. What must it be? I think 55 that he's done. Never won a race. Fascinating. Anyways, Eurus into the pit lane. That promotes Rito to second. Somehow Made It to third. Yeah, interestingly, I think the SFR Maserati Corsa is showing its weakness at this track. It is a slow car on paper. Funnily enough, so is, to a certain degree, the Furia Roja, which obviously took that 1-2 in Valencia. But I think the really tight corners here, so obviously the turn 1 hairpin, but also corners like this, the grip loss that you get from that, from having poor grip on your car, which cars like SFR Maserati Corsa, Furia Roja, do sort of have, let's actually take up the team overview for a second. Furuoka have mid-grip but terrible acceleration. SFR Maserati Corsa, poor grip and acceleration. You do suffer the consequences of that. I mean, the fact that Grandy is up in 8th, Corvid down in 6th, that Thunder X only really has it has no speed advantage necessarily over the Furuoka. It has a good bit of grip and one turbo. It's mainly the acceleration. So there is a strong evidence being made that this is an acceleration-based track. Then again, likes of Hetmenica in the Porsche, Fox in the Fox, not absolutely flying with their strong acceleration cars. It's difficult to pinpoint what this track needs apart from speed, but definitely not just speed. Somehow Made It is your race leader now. Would be fortunate timing for him to get an extra burst of rain. Rito has not stopped for a third time just yet. These drivers have only stopped twice because of their overcut, meaning that they didn't have to stop before the intermediate stint. Therefore, they've only changed so far onto and off their intermediate tyres. No dry-to-dry pit stops. Urist in 3rd position. Pit crew 4th. Goose in 5th. Corvid in 6th. Andrews, then Grandy. It's Fox. Then Het Menica. Todsol not far behind. It's Bluebell Boy. Then Kubo. Behind him is Abva. Vaporeon. Cado. Shiloh. Anti. Pappy. And Suicide. Rito, our race leader, somehow made it into pit lane. He's been passed by Urus. He's been passed by pit crew. Probably come out relative to Goose. He gets a little carry there, and Goose, who did stop a good few laps earlier now for that medium compound tyre, will come out behind somehow made it. The SFR Maserati Corsa team will be pretty pleased with that. They'll stick on to their 4th position for now. The fight at the front, though, rages ever onwards. Our two double world champions in Ultimate Virtual, Rito versus Urus. Rito now into the pit lane. He loses position to pit crew, and it's very close with Goose, and somehow I made it. Goose out of pretty much nowhere, jumping up into 3rd place, got past somehow I made it on that back straight. Somehow made it, double damage, now down into 5th position as Rito gets past him. 4th now for the Russian driver. That means Goose is currently promoted to the podium. If we pull out the results of his so far this season, it's interesting to look at actually. He's gotten a 3rd place last race, he got 3rd place in the opening race. A couple podiums already this season is pretty good running for FVR, a team that have gone whole seasons with 0, 1 or just 2 podiums. So 2 in the first 6 rounds and still looking pretty competitive at getting a 3rd potentially. It's all good point tools for the team. 4th for him at the moment. Urus now down into 4th position. Somehow made it promoted to 2nd. Pit crew is your new race leader. The front 3 converge here. Somehow made it gets a great run on pit crew. That late stop seems to have given him all of the beans that he needed. And it's the tyre compound advantage. Look at that, the only driver in the top 6 not to be running the medium. He's on that soft compound tyre, and it's really given him great pace. He sets the fastest lap in style by taking the race lead along with it, and is making that gap out. If he gets some rain in the imminent future, he will have been able to build that gap up, make that overcut on these drivers, meaning that his softs are still in better condition than the mediums of those drivers behind him, aside from Rito, who is on a slightly more similar strategy. Urist as well has come in for his 5th pit stop now, so he has gone very early on his stops and gone quite aggressive on those tyres. Corvid in 6th position at the moment, not looking to change that at the moment. Urist and Rito close together. Goose getting stuck. Pit crew, look at all of this. This is a huge melee. About 2 seconds separates 2nd down to 5th place. Somehow I made it. Running away in the race lead. 2 seconds up the road. Fox in, and this is it. This is your front 4 on track. Your front 4 fighting for position. If they can get decent, yeah. Don't know what I was going to say there. Goose there. Urist looking outside. Rito looking inside. Goose is like a man being mugged in a Toronto side alley because he has just lost 2 positions just like that, one either side of him. It's slightly demoralising, that, to be honest. Pit crew comes into the pit lane, so does Goose. These drivers will not be at much risk of losing position to those behind. Corvid even can only get within about 3 seconds of this top 5 pack. He will settle for 6th today. Goose comes up to lap his teammate. Pit crew in 4th. Eurist with that undercut looking very handy up in 2nd place. Rito, though, with 2 stops fewer and only slightly older tyres, very much running an alternate but somewhat working strategy. Somehow I made it, now really suffering the consequences of those soft tyres. That gap has closed dramatically, and he will, I'm pretty certain, be in this lap on 37. Remember, the pit lane is about a quarter of the way round the lap, or a third of the way round. Eurus takes no bullshit with that one. Somehow I made it, realizes it's time to call it a day. Goes into the pit lane. Lost the lead there. He lost 2nd place to Rito, and he's going to lose 3rd place as he trundles down pit lane to pit crew. But Goose has really dropped back here. He has pitted. He's taken on hard compound tyres. Somehow made it also on fresher hard compound tyres. Pit crew on slightly older hard compound tyres. This may yet just be a fight for the podium positions, but if Eurist and Rito, they've got to come in soon off those mediums, so it still could be anyone's race depending on how that strategy can work out come the checkered flag. Randy, pit crew got some really nasty hit there. I think it was from Suicide going over the bridge, and that unfortunately just can happen. A draft of wind and your car gets a tank slapper into the barrier. That's given Somehow Made It all the opportunity that he needed to get up into 3rd place. I'm pretty certain that he would have had an incident similar to that earlier, because there was a sort of inexplicable drop in that 2-second gap down to about a few tenths that just didn't really make sense at the time. Pit crew on the back of the Russian driver. No issues with ghosting this time. But he does get back up the inside and does very cleanly make that move into the final chicane. Takes the podium position back. Rito struggling out there on that old medium. Eurist is not far off that same condition. Rito is going to drop back further. Pit crew and Somehow I Made It will nab him as they come down the main straight, and Goose will have him in his sights. But again, Goose just holding on to 5th. That is poor timing. Really poor timing indeed. For pit crew, for Rito, just came in, full wet weather announced. Eurus has a 7-second lead, and this is pretty much exactly the lap that he was going to pit on. This is incredible luck for the Portuguese driver, incredible luck for Team Velocity. This is what could be an insurmountable lead for this driver, and all of his competitors have pitted. Even though the clouds are coming back, we'll still have a significant amount of standing water. I mean, you might see some drivers opt for an intermediate, but it's unlikely. Caddo is our last in, and he did put on the wet. 7 seconds stands between Eurus and his closest competitor now. It would have been an amazing scrap for the win and podium positions if not for this, but he does have a very large lead now. Pit crew, having had the benefit of stopping earlier than some of his counterparts, holds on to 2nd place at the moment. Somehow Made It is under pressure from Rito. This is the fight over the final podium position. It's Goose in 5th and Andries in 6th place. Corvid takes that off him. I think Andrews had a significant amount of help from the rain there, because Corvid was in 6th for large sections of this race. We have now just 12 laps left to run, less than that for our race leaders, about 11 for Eurus, such as his gap over the rest of the field and the relatively short 26-second lap that we have here at Palanga. But it's going to look to be a really nice podium for pit crew. He definitely can use one of those. If you look at the driver's standings this season, he's slowly building his way up, but even a smattering of points. He got 5th and 4th tokenless in early rounds, but 9th and 7th since he started spending. I think actually only 7th was the one that he spent tokens on. Interestingly enough, these guys are all now in. There's no water left on the track. Eurus gap, though, is so large and the track is so short that it doesn't really majorly affect him, other than him just getting a slightly slow exit there. But I think that will see his gap drop to round about 5 seconds. He will, though, have a lap fresher tyres, but those are soft compound tyres. Intriguing. 6.5 is the gap. Still very comfortable for Eurus, who knew that he could extend a lap extra over his competitors without really risking anything. Such as the cushion that he has. Somehow I made it. No. Up into second place. Pit Crew looking at his first podium this season. Somehow I made it looking at his first podium this season, I think. Yes. He's only scored points twice so far this season. He had a 4-race streak of not scoring points in between that, but he did nab some last time out. He'd be happy with a podium here. Not quite the jubilant victory that it was last time he raced at Palanga. Oh, look, Eurus has been slightly held up by his teammate. That's interesting. 5 seconds still is his gap. Yes, not the jubilant victory that it once was a season ago at this circuit, but a second place is very solid points for him and the SFR team. No doubt see them place themselves in as upper midfielders, similar to how they were last season after the miraculous recovery from the back. Somehow made it really is closing that gap down to Eurus though. We'll take the timing across the line. To my count, he's about 4 seconds back. It's not bad that he's putting in decent lap times. He was a second quicker on that last lap. The gap is 4 seconds. If he carries on at that rate, we will get a final couple laps fight for this race win. Eurus gets the fortunate circumstance of lap traffic ghosting as he goes over the overpass. He sets in a 27.38 on that last lap, and it's a 27.57. Somehow made its charge is halted. Pit crews though very much still on. In the meanwhile, Rito is still there. Interesting to see how these drivers take these tyres, if they can take them to the end of the race. I think Eurus will struggle. I think he'll have to be in sort of lap 51, really. That seems to me the best time to do it, but that means that he will forfeit track position. However, I think he knows that that gap is great enough that he can pit and probably still regain that lead, but it is a risky strategy rather than just running a medium or even a harder compound of tyre and letting that gap slowly deplete while just sort of maintaining the pace. Pit crew is through on somehow. I made it. Rito still a few seconds back. They are still just about 4 seconds behind Eurus, who will struggle to nurse those softs all the way to the checkered flag. I think a pit stop has to be his option here on this lap. No, he's not going to go for it. I think that the medium is definitely the preferred choice to the end. He'll get quite a lot of sliding through some of the tighter corners. A bit of traffic, though, has afforded somehow made it that opportunity to get right back through, and he does so, getting into second place. Very nicely indeed. Pit crew going through. Second place for himself. Somehow I made it. Third now. Again, Eurus still 420 hundredths ahead of these drivers. A great battle over the last few positions. Pit crew stretching that advantage now. Last few positions on the podium, rather, and that's really a big gap now that Eurus has, and he's still setting in very competitive lap times. I think it will be really hard to see him lose this advantage. He was a few tenths slower than Pit crew on that last lap, but it's really not going to be enough. Eurus only has 2 laps left to go in this race. That soft is definitely wearing out, but I'm not sure that it'll be enough. He has managed this race absolutely brilliantly. Somehow made it, and Rito got lucky with the rain early on. Eurus got lucky with the rain in the end, but Pit crew really never got that share of luck, did he? Unfortunately for him. But as Pit crew looks to close in, just a little bit more still will be in vain. Eurus can enjoy this. His coast through wins do not come all too often to Team Velocity these days, but perhaps this is the start of a redemption for the team. Eurus wins the Lithuanian Grand Prix. A great 4 token spent for him, and a great 4-second victory too. Pit crew finishes just ahead of Somehow I Made It, but both drivers will be elated with their first podiums of the season. Rito comes home in 4th position. Goose will take 5th for his FVR team. Corvid not in the lofty heights of the podium. They will lose points on ThunderX Today, Furia Rocha dropping back in the championship from them. Andries will take 7th, crucial points for BFX in their fight to stay ahead of Porsche and not get relegated. Randy will take 8th position as he comes across the line tokenless. That's very impressive. A good recovery from that driver today after no points last time out, and he sets his personal best lap of the race on the final lap too. Fox with 1 point, with 1 token, will score 2 points. He'll be unhappy with that, I'd reckon, but not as unhappy as the man spending 2 tokens for just 1 point. There's your top 10. Fastest lap goes Somehow I Made It. Will take 16 points overall. It was Eurus, then Pit Crew, Somehow I Made It, then Rito, Goose, Corvid, Andries, Grandy, Fox, and Hetmenica. Then Todsod, Bluebell, Shiloh, Abver spends a token, finishes P14 only. Kubo 15th, and Kado, Vaporeon, Anti, Pappy, and Suicide. 3 rounds left in the season. We head to Istanbul tomorrow. Should be a great one. We'll see you very soon. Until then, bye-bye.